This film stars Ana de Armas and takes place between the third and fourth John Wick films. Ana de Armas stars as Eve, a young girl whose parents are killed when she's young. She is adopted by Ian McShane's Winston, who's a staple of the John Wick series. He takes her in, and she's trained by the Ruska Roma, which is the Russian like assassination tribe in the greater world of John Wick. She is trained to be both ballerina and assassin. She graduates assassin school and goes on the hunt for the mysterious tribe, the X tribe that murdered her parents. And it's the kind of thing no one wants to talk about them. We don't say their names. No one knows who they are, where they are, that sort of thing. So she goes on this mission of revenge. We see her meet some staples of the series and some newcomers like Norman Reedus and, of course, the great Keanu Reeves as John Wick himself, on a mission of revenge with lots of action. It's a lot of fun, lots to talk about. Zach, what do you think?
So I'm not as up to date on the John Wick franchise as you are, which I think will make for good conversation. You have seen all of these movies and are innately familiar with the lore. I saw the last one, John Wick 4, which honestly worked great by itself. Had a great time in the theater. For anybody who's thinking, oh God, Scott doesn't know what he's talking about. No, dude, John Wick 4 was solid. But I was lacking some of the foundational elements that I think maybe this film owes to its previous works. A lot of John Wick lore in the open, as well as, John Wick stuff happening throughout. It's definitely not its own independent action feature, but it doesn't claim to be. The title is from the John Wick, from the world of John Wick Ballerina. Very much knows where it's coming from. And in that way, I love the action in this movie. I love the geography of the scenes. I love the combination of wild weapons and insane duels and flips and stuff. All that stuff works great. The stuff that's a little boring is the stuff between the fights, right? And somehow John Wick 4 manages to do a little better job. I think that comes from director Len Wiseman, right? I know they had Chad Stahelski, former director, out for reshoots and for parts of this. I think the stuff he probably included is awesome. The other stuff is okay. And I think in another iteration or another film, will probably, I don't know, get fixed or wrapped up in a better way. So it's all right, but not as good as I think the prior entry. What do you think?
So this movie started as a spec script, which is just where someone basically has a pitch of an idea. And it was just about a female assassin, and they basically retrofitted it to fit into the world of John Wick. And the plot is a little thin beer. It's a classic. Oh, young girl, her parents are killed. She's on a mission of revenge, and they shove it into the world of John Wick, and it kind of works. I think, from what I understood, this film was kind of a disaster, and Chad Stahelski came in and did a bunch of reshoots. I think added Keanu Reeves into a few sequences and more or less saved the film. The plot stuff is real thin and real kind of boring. And usually that's where these movies kind of do some comic book like scene chewing, the kind of the world of these secret assassins. But this movie makes up for it in the action. There are a ton of action scenes. Anytime you think it's starting to get slow, action starts up again. There's several times I was like, oh, we're going to get like some talking here, some exposition. Nope. It gets interrupted with another fight scene. So there's a ton of action, and the action stuff is really good. And they play into this thing that, Ana de Armas is small. They comment on it. They're like, you're not as strong. You're not going to be as fast. And so she's always armed. Like, she's always using weapons in the fight. She's picking up everything around her to get through her battles. There's a great sequence with like a bag of grenades that she has. So the action, I think, kind of makes up and makes this movie work. If the action were weak, it would be a total dud.
Yeah, I think Stahelski's like innate ability to direct a stunt fight is so important to what makes these movies. It's right there next to Keanu Reeves being important in the John Wick universe. Like, these fight scenes are so unique and nobody does them like this. And it's because of a few key elements. Geography of a scene. They use every part of the room. If they're fighting in a restaurant, they're going to end up fighting back in the kitchen and swinging utensils at each other. If you're fighting in a bank, they're going to end up like swinging a bank vault door into somebody, like using the whole room, flipping over all the tables, like blowing open all the doors is a big part to making these things feel scalable. And also, wild use of weapons and things that are around and combining those. There's a couple of great scenes in here with like grenades. There's a flamethrower sequence that's real rad and manages to have a lot of energy. And that stuff works independent of Keanu Reeves. Like, he does not have to be in the room for that to happen. those are the scenes that I think work the best here. And when watching this movie, it starts to feel a little bit like two halves. It feels like the stuff that was there and the stuff Stahelski came in and reshot. And I don't know how much of it he came in and added, but all the John Wick stuff, all the really rad fight sequences feels like somebody came in and cleaned this up after. Like, this doesn't feel like this was here at the beginning, and it all is important to making it better. And Keanu Reeves is a lightning rod in the middle of this movie because he immediately draws attention and amps it up, and you're like, oh, dude, now things are getting real. Baba Yaga's here. But I hate to say that without that stuff, it's a weaker movie. Like the stuff that's there on, like, without Stahelski and without Keanu Reeves, like, doesn't work as good. I think Ana de Armas doesn't get as much opportunity for exposition in this movie. Her character is pretty quiet. She's a little mousy, a little quiet. You know, she's got some trauma that ended up getting her into this situation from her childhood. It's explained in the first act. But she doesn't end up doing as much character work in her other films. That comes out in the action where they're doing like these insanely choreographed sequences, which she can do great. Like, it's a beating to film that stuff, and she keeps up and does a great job. But yeah, it's just light on exposition and even a little light on action till like the back half, and then it finally kicks into like the heat. I do agree though, there are a couple surprise action sequences. They're almost like jump scares. In a horror movie, it'd be a jump scare, except in this movie, it's just surprise. It's an action sequence now, and they are welcome. Like, that stuff is good. Those are the best elements of this movie.
Yeah, exactly. The action is what works best, and it keeps that modern feel that the John Wick movies have, where, like I said last week, I'd watched Demolition Man, and it's a completely different kind of action movie. And in this, we have lots of hand-to-hand combat. Like, she did a lot of training, like jujitsu stuff and gun training. I was listening to an interview where she was talking about her hands were really sore from, like, because she had to learn how to take the guns apart, put them back together. It was a whole thing. So you get that real visceral feel that you get from the John Wick movies. Also, she, like John Wick, she gets thrown around a whole lot. Like, she's getting like punched and kicked and thrown through windows and stuff. So you get that, okay, like I said, very visceral feel. Things that are just more modern now than the way these movies used to be shot, and I think that keeps it fresh. And also, just the variety of action scenes you get. You get, of course, tons of like shooting and hand-to-hand combat, but like you said, there's a flamethrower sequence, there's a grenade sequence, there's a place where everyone is an assassin. There's a club scene that we have actually kind of reminisced from some of the other John Wick films as well. So there's a lot of action, and it's varied enough that it doesn't get old.
Yeah. Also, odd observation from me. This fits in the plot loosely because of the shape of the movie. Ana de Armas is kind of an up and coming assassin in this world. Like, she's training at the beginning of the movie, and then she ends up taking on real jobs. And as we get into it deeper, like, the stakes become higher and much deadlier. Like, and I totally see that. But for the first like half of the movie, I legitimately thought it was a PG-13 feature. There's like very little blood, and they're using rubber bullets, and they're only fighting with fists. And there's a sequence in that club when Ana de Armas gets beat to hell, and she's barely bleeding, barely has a mark on. I'm just like, what's happening here? Like, is this PG-13? And then the last half of it, way the other side. I was like, oh no, this is firmly R. Like, we have multiple people lit on fire and screaming for their life. There's a scene where a guy is begging somebody not to light them on fire, and he gets torched. Like, whole blood, glass, explosions, like arms getting blown off, like totally comes back on the other half. And again, I'm like, it feels like reshoot stuff. Like, that feels like somebody in the test screening was like, this is not nearly gory enough, turn this up. And maybe they had started it softer. Maybe there was an intention that we shoot this movie, and maybe it'll be PG-13, and we can grab that crowd, right? You bigger box office returns at PG-13. But then in the second half, it's like, no, it's firmly there. So I say that all to say, if you're looking for some visceral action, it's in Ballerina. It's just more in the back half. The first half will be like a paintball sequence and, like, fist fights, and then it gets to where it's going for sure.
I noticed that as well. It definitely gets more kind of adult in the second half, and that's probably a lot to do with the reshoots. And yeah, that first half just kind of feels so generic. Like, she's got to go. She has a training montage at the beginning. She's got to, get one final test before you become a full-fledged assassin.
Yeah.
And then she graduates assassin school. 6 months later, that sort of thing. You can definitely tell a difference, but it benefits from it by the end.
Yeah, and it's a lot of complaining from me about plot and exposition in a movie that fundamentally is focused on action. And I think the action is where the best parts of the movie lie. It's kinetic, it moves, it's funny in times. There's a couple of really odd throwaway gags that harken back to like old stunt performing. There's a sequence with a TV remote where she's punching somebody and the channel's changing, and then another sequence where there's like a ton of plates in this diner, and these two people are just hammering the hell out of each other. Broken plate, broken plate, broken plate. Funny, solid, kinetic. Again, that feels like the best part, like the lightning rod stuff in this movie. It's like I wish it could have been that the whole runtime. A little slow to get going, but solid. I guess the larger question before we wrap it up, A, do you have anything else you want to point out? And B, like, does the John Wick universe work without John Wick in the middle of it, or does Keanu Reeves have to be in every one of these features?
I think it can. Uh, because people love the action, and the action just has to be convincing, and there's so much style in these movies, and there's more style in the other movies than in this one. Not that it's not trying for that, but the whole world is kind of fascinating. There's like, this code that all these assassins somehow live by. There's secret rooms and secret societies. So I think it can definitely work, but you needed to have a better handoff. Like I said, the Hobbs and Shaw thing, you introduce those characters in the Fast and Furious movies, and then they eventually got their own spinoff. They
Yeah.
needed to do something like this. May have worked better with like Halle Berry's character having a spinoff because she was in their third film. Something like that might have worked a little bit better. So we'll see how it goes going forward. It might have been good to have like, this could have been like a team up movie, her and John Wick the entire time. He's only in it for small amounts. So, and that might have been a better way to spin it off. So we'll see. I think they definitely want to make more. We'll have to see what the legs are like.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think you can make a John Wick movie or in the world of John Wick without Keanu Reeves. I don't know if you can do it without Chad Stahelski, or at least somebody who is like
Yeah.
directly imitating his style and approach. Because this was a different star and a different director, right? Ana de Armas and Len Wiseman. I think losing those two key figures is what makes it a challenge. Because if you'd kept one of them, either way, from the start, I think you would have been better off. But what's here is solid. They save it. It pulls out at the end. I think it's a solid Wick feature. I got to know, Andy, would you recommend from the world of John Wick, Ballerina?
Overall, I would definitely, for fans of action films and fans of the John Wick series. The action is excellent, and that's what you're largely coming for. Ana de Armas is great in the role. She clearly did lots of physical training and gun training. We get to see some new favorites, some old favorites. Uh, it's a lot of fun. The plot story is real thin. It kind of doesn't matter. You're not there for that. I would like to see more, so I would say suggested for fans of the franchise.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Fans of the franchise or action fans, or if you're an Ana de Armas fan, I think you'll have a fine time watching her do some really great action work in this movie. Outside of that, like if you don't know what you're getting into, if you're just coming in blind, I think From the World of John Wick sounds a little intimidating on the poster. And it should, because it's a little lore heavy in a way that might feel you're leaving left out in the cold. And outside of that, it's a little bit of a paint by numbers shadow organization, hires young up and comer who becomes great assassin sort of movie. Like it's got so much John Wick DNA that I think it lacks having an identity outside of that. Works great for a Wick movie. Solid. I enjoyed it. I haven't seen many of the other ones, but from what I hear, it's better than 3. So it's that. Somebody might know what that means. But yeah, that's from the world of John Wick. Ballerina. We got to talk about some trailers, Andy. What do we call this segment?
It's time for the trailer park.